Just up as I go. Welcome, everybody, to the NFL Show on the Grueling Truth Sports Network. The NFL Show is brought to you by Manscaped, the Lawnmower 3.0. Me and Sam will have that in possession by the end of the week. We'll give you a review there, but you can go to manscaped.com, use the promo code TGT20 to get 20% off of your first order. I am your host, Mike Goodpaster. Right now, I'd like to welcome in my co-host, Sam Teets. How you doing, Sam?
I'm doing great, Mike. How about you?
I am always fabulous. And we got two football games to talk about from last night. Both very interesting, very disturbing for the NFC East, which now a team with 2 wins may win the division. And when I look at this last night, we'll start off with the Cowboys because that was just an outstanding performance by Dallas. They beat 38-10 at home by Kyler Murray and the Cardinals. I don't know. I think this tells us more about how bad the Cowboys are than anything good about the Cardinals.
Yeah, I really think ordinarily any team could counter what the Cardinals were doing. The real issue came down to the Cowboys are just so bad at this point that they can't stop just about anyone. I mean, the Cardinals ran for 261 yards, and 164 of them came from Kenyon Drake. Kyler Murray, they had no answer for him at linebacker for Dallas. I mean, he ran for 74 yards himself. And really, this was a day where DeAndre Hopkins only made 2 catches. It wasn't like they were throwing the ball over Dallas, and they still gave up 38 points. So to me, this is just an indictment of how terrible Dallas is at this one point.
Yeah, and also I want to bring up the fact that if you usually watch us on YouTube, you can only see it through my Facebook page because now Facebook has decided not to let us on for a few days also, and we don't know why. Just like they demonetized us on YouTube with no reason, so you can go, remember, to the Grueling Truth Fund on the GoFundMe thing to help us go ahead and keep the program going. We do have some listeners here, Sam, and when I look at it, Kyler Murray was not very good last night. He was 9 for 24 for 188 yards. He had a pair of touchdown passes to Christian Kirk. And when I watched this, Andy Dalton replaced Dak Prescott. It didn't go well. They couldn't run the ball, and they've got Ezekiel Elliott. They're throwing the ball 50 times with Andy Dalton. This team's in a lot of trouble, and right now, I think the Giants and Redskins are even in play to make the playoffs, Sam.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's in play to make the playoffs. I think the worst team in that division, I'm pretty sure, is only maybe 1.5 games out of first place. So really, this has been a terrible year for that entire division. And Andy Dalton, to his credit, I mean, I think in the quarterback power ranks, we'll see a little bit later, I had Kyler Murray maybe a little bit too high. But Dalton, I can't put all the blame on last night's game for him because the running game was terrible. Ezekiel Elliott turned the ball over twice, and then offensive line lost Zach Martin early in the game. So they haven't had a consistent offensive line all year long. Talking about Collins has been out the entire year. Tyron Smith is gone. Now Martin is injured, and Travis Fitzpatrick retired in the offseason. So you're looking at an entirely new, beat-up offensive line. This isn't all on Andy Dalton, but at the same point, he certainly didn't help the situation last night.
All right, man. Yeah, Andy Dalton's lost here. The offensive line's terrible. The defense is terrible. And the Cowboys, I would say they're done, but in this division, like I said, Sam, is it possible a team with just like 5 wins could win a division?
No, I really think so. I mean, honestly, if you look at it, they'd have to play each other. But if there are splits in this thing, you could see a team with, I think, 6 wins make the playoffs. And I'm being serious about that. I know we've seen teams that have 7 wins get close in the past, but really 6 wins. There's, I think, a realistic option. Even if you do the math, I'm pretty sure 6 wins could get you into the playoffs this year from the NFC East.
And who would you favor to win in the AFC East or in the NFC East right now?
You know, I'd still go with the Eagles just because the coaching's there. I know the organization. I trust them a lot more than I trust Dallas. I mean, their Cowboys in the first year with new head coach Mike McCarthy, who's had issues in the past. He's had issues this year. So really, I'm definitely taking the Eagles. And I also think Carson Wentz is getting back into form. We've seen in the past 2 weeks against what we consider generally good defenses in Pittsburgh and Baltimore and performing at a high level with basically no receiving threats whatsoever. So I'm going with Philadelphia.
Yeah, I really think the Eagles can get to 7 or 8 wins, maybe even 9, just because I think they can possibly sweep this division.
I mean, it's been a terrible division this year. There's no saving it, really. There's only, I'll say, one good unit in this entire division right now. Maybe that's Washington's defensive front, the defensive line. Other than that, every other unit is injured, banged up. I don't think there's a good unit in this entire division outside maybe Washington.
All right, let's go to the second game, which was the first game actually on the day, but a pair of teams with sky-high hopes coming off their first losses. It's supposed to be an offensive showdown between the Chiefs and Bills featuring Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen, squared off for the first time. And this wasn't really about the quarterbacks. This was about Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And Mahomes was great, 21 for 26, 225, 2 touchdowns. But the Chiefs, when they run for over 200 yards, it's going to be damn near impossible to beat them.
But they already have such a high-powered passing game that when they're running the ball well, it's almost impossible. And really, Clyde Edwards-Helaire was the star of the night, 26 carries for 161 yards. He actually is leading the NFL in yards from scrimmage right now, so maybe throw him into the Offensive Rookie of the Year conversation. And Patrick Mahomes, like you said, he was efficient. Although he didn't have to hit as many big plays as normal because the passing game was really secondary to the running game all night for Kansas City. The conditions were a bit wet, a little rainy, some mist as well. Maybe that's why they went to the ground game, but for whatever reason they did, and it worked out really well against Buffalo.
Yeah, and now there's a report that maybe Josh Allen has some arm issues or shoulder issues, which is why they're saying he played poorly the last 2 games. Do you buy that?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, it would make sense because there was such a drop-off, I think, in play for the past 2 games, so I could understand if they're saying that. Because really, I mean, look at it. He was missing throws from the opening possession the other night. I mean, the very first drive, he missed 2 wide-open receivers, and they went 3 and out. So I would understand if that's the case just because there's been such an incredible drop-off in play for him. I know the score was 26-17. It was really a much bigger gap than that. Kansas City basically had this game on lockdown from the start of the second quarter.
Yeah, when Devin Singletary and Zach Moss can't do anything and Josh Allen's the leading rusher with 8 carries and 42 yards, they're not going to beat a Buffalo Bills team that put up 466 yards in offense. And still the concern to me is I thought a few weeks ago the Bills would turn out to be the best team in the AFC just because of the defense. I thought the defense would come around. That doesn't look like it's happening right now.
No, this is actually been a very bad defense so far, or at least a very mediocre one. I was right there with you. I thought the defense would kind of get things figured out just because of the players and the personnel they have. They got Tremaine Edmonds, a Pro Bowl linebacker. Tre'Davious White was one of the best corners in the NFL this past year. And you turn around and really, I mean, this defense is bad, Mike. This defense is not good at all, and you can't count on them to hold teams like the Kansas City Chiefs below what they put up the other night. So really, this is going to be a lot more pressure on Josh Allen, this offense, to go out and score 30-plus points per night.
Yeah, and I think right now, I think the AFC has opened up to be more competitive than we thought it would be at the start of the year because we could only come up with like 2. Basically, at the start of the year, it looked like Kansas City and Baltimore. But right now, it looks like Kansas City. It looks like Baltimore. It looks like the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Tennessee Titans. I mean, this has turned into a 4 or 5, maybe even a 6-team race if a couple teams can round out like Buffalo with the defense.
Yeah, which is good. I mean, it's good for the sport to have that many teams play at a high level because you have, on the opposite end of the spectrum, so many teams with just 1 or 2 wins who are really bad this year. So having 5 or 6 teams that are competing at the top in the AFC is probably a good thing.
All right, we're going to talk about the quarterback power rankings, but before we do that, let's talk about a little breaking news where the Miami Dolphins have decided to make Tua Tagovailoa their starting quarterback over Ryan Fitzpatrick. Does this surprise you, Sam, and is it a good move?
It's not bad. It's not a bad move just because I expected Tua to get time this year. I think he would at this point any time for a rookie taking that high at quarterback. The timing is somewhat surprising. I know they have a bye week right now, so they're giving him an extra week to prepare and get ready. But the team they play coming right off that bye week is the Los Angeles Rams. And Aaron Donald, who just torched Alex Smith and Kyle Allen and all those guys 2 weeks ago. You're going to play Aaron Donald against Tua Tagovailoa in his first game. And as Rams defensive front has been very good this year. So to me, it's a bit questionable because I know the bye week's there, but I'd say your opponent in week 8 is potentially the worst opponent you're going to have for the rest of the year to play Tua against.
Well, I think what you're seeing is 3-3, and Ryan Fitzpatrick, everybody talks about how great he's played and how he deserves to continue to start. He did throw 2 picks against the New York Jets, and the New York Jets are the New York Jets. They're not very good. He played well against San Francisco the week before, but the other thing to remember about that Rams defense is supposed to be so great, we just saw them get torched by Jimmy Garoppolo and the San Francisco 49ers.
That's true. I mean, that's what you got to hope for is the fact that you can get the ball downfield with Devontae Parker, maybe force them into a corner here.
And how about this? I would think almost from the beginning of the season, this is what their plan was to do.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Brian Flores has said when he's asked about this, it's just the right time. It's just the right time to do this now. I guess Tua, they've seen in his progressions and his health in the way he's practicing that he is ready to go out there and play, and they have no worries whatsoever about him going out there and facing a team that has Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey on it. So, I mean, they obviously know much more than we do at this point, but if Brian Flores says it's time, I'm going to trust him.
All right, let's go ahead and look at your quarterback power rankings headed into week 7. Number 1, Russell Wilson. I think there's no doubt. Number 2, Ryan Tannehill. So you've got Ryan Tannehill over Patrick Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, I do. I mean, I know they had 2 turnovers this past game, but 4 touchdowns. I mean, he got them on the drive, going out and tie the game, forced overtime, and then they ended up winning. I mean, to me, Ryan Tannehill is playing as possibly the most efficient quarterback in the game right now. And they're undefeated as a team that may be the best team in the AFC. I think they have to be rewarded with the number 2 spot.
All right, Patrick Mahomes 3, Aaron Rodgers number 4. My question is this. Aaron Rodgers number 4, he had one bad game.
Yeah, he did. Are you arguing he should be lower or higher?
Are you arguing that Patrick Mahomes and Ryan Tannehill haven't had a bad game?
No, I'm not. But I'm saying Ryan Tannehill hasn't had a total collapse the way Aaron Rodgers did. I mean, Aaron Rodgers' one bad game was really bad, like to the point he didn't score a touchdown. He didn't throw for 200 yards. Patrick Mahomes and Tannehill have had questionable performances. They've never had a game that's been that bad this year.
Okay. I'm not questioning the rankings because I'm good with 2, 3, 4 in pretty much any order. I was just trying to get your thoughts there because to me, somewhat previous history has to play into effect. And Aaron Rodgers hadn't thrown an interception until this game. And he's a guy you had at number 2 the whole time. And Ryan Tannehill's a guy you had at number 17 like 3 weeks ago.
That's fair. I just think right now Tannehill, he's like I said, he's playing with a bit of a hot hand. And I made my mistake with Tannehill. I really think he's played at a top 5 level throughout the entire year. I had him low going into the season. That was my mistake. I honestly underestimated him. I thought he was more of a system quarterback, and I was clearly wrong.
All right. Number 5, Derek Carr. I think that's too high. I don't think he's playing poorly. Huh?
I agree, but there's no one. I couldn't put him. There's no one else to put him.
Crap. You've got Desean Watson. You got Deshaun.
I had Deshaun Watson at I had Deshaun Watson at like 6 this past week. He yelled at me. I moved him back respectively. So I expected that I put him a little too high last week. I give him more of a fair ranking this week, and now you're saying, I'll put him at 5.
Well, how about this? Deshaun Watson, when you look at what he did against a good Tennessee Titans team, the thing about that game is this. They had to come back. They had to lead. The game was back and forth. Their defense couldn't do anything to stop Tennessee. Deshaun Watson was playing with, as we always say, less talent than pretty much everybody else around him. So, I mean, put it like this. If I had to pick the top 2 quarterbacks I would want to start a team with right now, they would be Russell Wilson and Deshaun Watson.
Really? You would go that high? You would take Deshaun Watson over Mahomes?
Oh, any day. He's better than Mahomes. I've been saying that since last year.
All right, on what basis? I know you say Mahomes has trouble with the short routes, but on what other basis?
Deshaun Watson is an absolute monster. I think that Patrick Mahomes is in the perfect system for what he does. I think you can take Deshaun Watson and put him in any system, and he's going to be successful. I don't think you could say that with Patrick Mahomes. It's not a knock on Mahomes because there's places Tom Brady could have went and not been as successful.
So Deshaun Watson is the closest thing to Russell Wilson then, if any other quarterback in the NFL right now.
I think 3 or 4 years from now, Deshaun Watson may be one of the best quarterbacks we've ever seen.
I'm loving what I'm hearing, Mike. I'm loving it. Every minute of it.
Well, I just do. That's what I've thought all along. Last year, I caught all kind of hell when I said that I thought Deshaun Watson was better than Patrick Mahomes before they played in the playoffs. And then everybody's like, well, Patrick Mahomes won the play. It doesn't matter. The better quarterback is Deshaun Watson. You watch what he's working with. There haven't been too many games where the Houston Texans have just been blown out. And you got to remember, they started the season playing what? They played 3 of the best teams in the NFL the first 3 games. Do not be surprised if all of a sudden Deshaun Watson and the Houston Texans get back into a playoff hunt, at least for a wild card spot with, maybe 9 wins by the time this is done. He's that good.
Yeah, and for their first 6 games came against Kansas City, Baltimore, Pittsburgh, and Tennessee. 2 of those teams are undefeated and 2 of those are 1-loss teams. So they have faced probably the toughest schedule the first couple of weeks of the year. But does Deshaun Watson being in Houston make the Texans the highest priority coaching job this offseason?
Well, I think that is let Deshaun coach the team. But, I mean, yeah, because of Desean Watson, if it wasn't for the fact that Cincinnati Bengals were the Cincinnati Bengals, they have Joe Burrow. I mean, Deshaun Watson's the best job because if you're a coach and you're going there, you add a few more pieces, and this is a Super Bowl team because Deshaun Watson is special. You know, everybody talks – I mean, Deshaun Watson is so much better than Lamar Jackson. It's ignorant to even consider.
And Deshaun Watson is certainly one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. I think he's underachieved a little bit this year, but that's partially because the pieces around him are just
I don't think he's underachieved. I think the people around him have actually played better, and they've been in these games. You just talked about the 4 teams that beat them. Now, in almost every one of those games, going into the fourth quarter, they were in the game. They were in the game because Deshaun Watson is the quarterback. You put anybody else in that team, maybe it doesn't happen. You got Tom Brady at number 8. I think that's too low. I would have Tom Brady above – I would actually have Tom Brady at number 6. I'd have Deshaun Watson at number 5.
That's understandable. Tom Brady for me is just he's been up and down this year. He had the 5-touchdown game. He gets smacked by the Bears defense, which is kind of understandable considering how the offensive line played. And he came out and they were terrific against the Green Bay Packers. So to me, it's hard to rank him so far because he's gone up and down the list so much. I feel like I've had him at number 12 one week, number 4 the next, and then back up to number 11 the next week. So it's been very difficult to place.
How about this? I think within the next month you will have him in the top 5.
Yeah, I believe that. If they get healthy, they just get that offense healthy, and he keeps playing more consistently.
Well, and this is the thing. I mean, they were pretty healthy this week, and he played pretty well against the Green Bay team that everybody thought was just going to go in and mud stomp him, and it didn't happen that way because Tom Brady's there. Number 9, Drew Brees. I can see that. Number 10, Lamar Jackson. I don't think he should be above Justin Herbert.
I understand where you're coming from. I think Lamar played well enough to hold on to that 10 spot.
No, I think what it is this. Lamar is so overhyped. It's so loved that, you know, everybody's afraid to put him where he belongs. I mean, Lamar Jackson is between 10 and 15 overall for quarterbacks in the NFL. I would take Dak Prescott above him also. Not now because Dak's got a broken leg or whatever. But
well, I do have him at 10, so he falls into the range you gave me.
Yeah, and I'm not busting your ass. I think for this year, I mean, I would have him – I think I'd put him about 15. I mean, when I look below this, and this may sound crazy, but Ben Roethlisberger at 13 is a joke. I don't know what you're smoking when you do that, but this is a man who's 5-0 after basically sitting for a year or more, and he's thrown one pick this year.
Yeah,
Joe Burrow is better than Lamar Jackson. I don't give a damn what Lamar Jackson's done in the past. Joe Burrow's just better than him. Matt Ryan is better than him. I mean, hell, I think it's debatable whether Kyler Murray is better than him or not. I don't think Kyler Murray's played good enough, but what has Lamar Jackson done this year to be ranked in the top 10? I mean, he hasn't thrown for over 200 yards, as you say in your article, since week 2.
That's true, except for the Kansas City game, though. He really hasn't had to play or had to throw for over 200 yards to win a football game. He hasn't had to do much.
But the thing is this. Why doesn't he? I mean, you're playing against teams you should beat. I mean, against the Cincinnati Bengals, he threw for less than 200 yards, and he ran for nothing. You can't just say, well, it was the Bengals, so he doesn't really have to play that good. That's horse crap. I mean, it's the Bengals. You should tear them up. I mean, Phillip Rivers looked like he was 28 years old against the Bengals last week.
That's true. Rivers did have a very good game against Cincinnati.
Yeah, everybody has a very good game against Cincinnati except for Lamar Jackson. Even Baker Mayfield played really well against Cincinnati. I mean,
it seems to be.
The Lamar Jackson thing is all hype. It's all it is. It's because, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, there's no way you're ever going to convince me that if I had to win a football game that I would want to take Lamar Jackson over Big Ben. You know, you're a Steelers fan. And when we look at this, 2 minutes left, you got to go 80 yards to win the Super Bowl. You want Lamar Jackson or Big Ben?
Oh, Big Ben, because he's done it a million times before.
All right. You want Lamar Jackson or Joe Burrow?
Probably Joe Burrow. He did in college, at least.
You want Lamar Jackson or Matt Ryan?
Now, I'll take Lamar on that one.
Why?
Because when has Matt Ryan won a close game in recent history?
I saw Matt Ryan win an NFC championship. I saw Matt Ryan win a Super Bowl that was given back by his head coach and offensive coordinator.
Yeah, but let's not act like he played
Do
well.
you remember the throws that Matt Ryan was making in that Super Bowl, especially the one to Julio Jones that should have wrapped the game up?
That's he
made
4 years ago
throws in Super Bowl history. Over the shoulder, Julio Jones catches it. The game should be over. But it wasn't because their coaching was pathetic. I mean, Lamar Jackson, you rip Matt Ryan. When have you seen Lamar Jackson play well in a playoff game?
That's a good point. He hasn't.
Matt Ryan has. Matt Ryan won 2 to get to a Super Bowl, played well in the Super Bowl. So Matt Ryan's problem is nothing other than bad coaching. So, yeah, when you look at it like that, do you want Matt Stafford with 2 minutes left in the Super Bowl or Lamar Jackson? Do you want Carson Wentz or do you want Lamar Jackson?
Well, this year's been debatable for Wentz, so let's hold off on that.
No, this is not debatable. I'm just telling you right now, your team's the Pittsburgh Steelers. If I can throw Lamar Jackson or Carson Wentz in with 2 minutes left, you got to go down, make a bunch of throws, or maybe a run or two to win the Super Bowl. Do you really want Lamar Jackson over Carson Wentz?
Do I really want Carson Wentz? I really don't want either of those guys.
I would want Carson Wentz because what I've seen is Carson Wentz get shit done. I mean, last year, he didn't get to play in the playoff game because he was hurt, but he was going with taxi cab drivers and bookies as his wide receivers and got the Eagles to the playoffs over a Dallas Cowboy team that was much more talented than what they were.
Yeah, look, I'm not denying what Carson Wentz did last year, or even what he's done so far this year with the receivers he has. But at the same point, they haven't been winning football games lately. And he's got nothing. I agree with you. But he's thrown, 9 interceptions in 6 games already?
Yeah. And Lamar Jackson would be running for his life, getting sacked 10 times a game playing for the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, maybe he would.
No, it's not maybe he would because I said it, and that makes it true. Number 11, Justin Herbert. We'll see. I'm not against it. I'm not for it yet. Number 12, Jared Goff. I think it's too high, and I think Justin Herbert's too high just because you got Big Ben at 13. Big Ben at 13 really bothers me. And I don't like Big Ben. I think he's a scumbag. I hate the Pittsburgh Steelers. But damn, give the guy some respect. I mean, he's looking at being the comeback player of the year in the NFL. And your team is undefeated and in first place over Lamar Jackson.
That's true. But he's gotten a lot of help this year. I have no idea where this offensive line's coming from because the offensive line is playing actually pretty good in pass protection this year. But also, he's getting the ball out there very quickly. I don't know. The run game really bailed him out, I think, this week. But
did it?
We'll see.
Did it? He played the Cleveland Browns.
That's true.
So you're telling me
we're going to lose that game.
If they couldn't run the ball, he wouldn't be able to throw on them? I mean, he didn't. This is the thing. He didn't turn the ball over. The biggest thing for a quarterback is not how many touchdowns you throw. It's whether you can protect the ball and take care of it. He protected the ball and he took care of it. The dude's almost 40 years old, and he is still playing at a very high level. Joe Burrow, he's screwed because Zach Taylor's his head coach. Matt Ryan, he's screwed because he ain't got a head coach. Jimmy Garoppolo, he played a hell of a lot more than he did before. I don't think it's too high. I actually, with all the other guys around him, I think Jimmy Garoppolo is about right.
Yeah, this is where I thought he would probably belong. Even going back to last year, I always had him between, I want to say 15 to 18, somewhere in that range. This is really probably where Jimmy Garoppolo belongs.
Podcast forum where you can't see this. Did you pull this up so people can see it? Because I'm actually looking at it anyway.
I'll pull it up right now.
All right, but 16 is Jimmy Garoppolo. 17, Kyler Murray. I'm not impressed by Murray. I know you're in love with him. 18, Matt Stafford. 19, Carson Wentz. 20, Cam Newton. All these guys are about the same to me. They turn the ball over too much. I think Teddy Bridgewater at number 21 is too low. I think if you look at the breadth of the season, he has outplayed Cam Newton, Carson Wentz, Matthew Stafford, Kyler Murray, Jimmy Garoppolo. I would put him at 16.
That's fair. He does have 6 touchdowns to only 5 interceptions this year. So it's that's my one big issue is the touchdown interception ratio is almost the same. That's my probably biggest issue with Jimmy Garoppolo right now. With Teddy Bridgewater.
Yeah, but Teddy Bridgewater's won 3 football games. Cam Newton's not done that. Carson hadn't done that. Matt Stafford hasn't done that. Kyler Murray has. Jimmy Garoppolo, I guess he has. I don't know. I think Mullins won one of those. But Matt Ryan just got his first win. So I think you got Teddy a little too low. I think it's because that we don't expect much from Teddy that we drop Teddy quickly, if you know what I mean.
Now, I could agree with you, Eric. The stereotype for him that even I bought into a little bit last year was he's a game manager at best. So I can agree there. My expectations for Bridgewater are not as high as someone maybe like Carson Wentz or Cam Newton.
All right, number 22, Andy Dalton, 34 for 54, 266, 1 touchdown. That doesn't look that bad until you see the 2 interceptions. But the thing that stands out to me is this. If you've got Ezekiel Elliott and you're throwing the ball 54 times in a game, you've lost. And it's the same thing they were doing with Dak Prescott, and they were losing. I mean, if you've got Ezekiel Elliott and you're throwing 40 times or more a game, you're not having a good season.
Well, the biggest issue is Zeke the other night was he fumbled and lost 2 fumbles. So they moved away from him after his fumbling the ball a lot. So right now, I don't know what Dallas has offensively. Because if you can't trust Zeke, who can you trust?
Yeah, and the thing is, they averaged 32.6 points without the 2 fumbles. The 2 fumbles make things more difficult. And Andy Dalton's a good quarterback. He's a different kind of quarterback than Dak Prescott. Dak's probably safer behind a bad offensive line than Andy is. But Andy's got to think that maybe he just put a star on a Bengal helmet. He's still got the same damn thing. And that's an incompetent owner in Jerry Jones, just like he had in Cincinnati with Mike Brown, an incompetent head coach with Mike McCarthy. In Cincinnati, he had Zach Taylor and Marvin Lewis. So Andy Dalton's just got some bad luck where he ends up.
And pretty much he's going to have every opportunity to go out there and earn a significant pay raise this offseason. But really, if this is the offensive line he's working with, or basically there's only have 1 starter left or maybe 2 starters left, I can't see him going much higher than 15 just because of the pieces around him.
Now, number 23, Ryan Fitzpatrick. Do you think Fitzpatrick will be happy to just be Tua's backup and see if Tua screws up and he gets back in? Or do you think possibly there's a trade that could come here?
My question would be, where would he go? Because I feel like every other team, it's kind of like a lateral move. Because, if you could go to the Colts, maybe. Is the Colts the only team that would do that?
But the Colts wouldn't do that because they put all that money into Phillip Rivers. And you've still got Jacoby Brissett. You put all that money into him.
Yeah, so to me, I just don't know if there's a trade destination for Ryan Fitzpatrick. He could start for another team. I'm not saying he shouldn't, but I think they're happy with him on the bench.
If you were going to talk about a contender, the only contender I could really see would be maybe San Francisco. And it's not – I do like Jimmy Garoppolo, but he has been injured and he has had issues, maybe as a backup, because I don't think Mullins is a guy that's going to come in. He's going to be hot or cold. Fitzpatrick kind of is too, but he's got more experience. So, yeah, when I look at this, I don't know of any place that would trade for Ryan Fitzpatrick.
No, I don't know either, unless you're talking about, like, if Minnesota gets so bad to the point they just bench Kirk Cousins. But I don't understand why you would trade for someone at that point. But that's the only team.
Well, when your season's over and the guy you're trading for is like 70 years old and he looks like he's 95 and came out of the Ozark Mountains. Number 24, Nick Foles, 25, Gardner Minshew, 26, Baker Mayfield. There's no argument here with any of these. They're all right. That's about it. 27, Phillip Rivers. I would say you should jump him up for 371 yards and 3 touchdowns, but it was against the Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah, this is my only issue. He played really well against a really bad defense, and it's the one time he's played really well this year. He's been so bad in every other game that he's still down in the low 20s just because I don't trust him to do this against a competitive football team or competitive defense.
All right, next up, Kirk Cousins at 28, 24 for 36, 343 yards, 3 touchdowns, and you rank him at 28, Sam. But he also had 3 interceptions.
Yeah, that's the part. That's the part that kind of throws things off right here. This is the second 3 interception game this year. And honestly, I know Kirk Cousins was never an elite quarterback, but I just don't know what's happened to him this year. I mean, his single season high for interceptions thrown was 13. He's already at 10. I mean, it's just this is a complete collapse, right? This is like what Matt Schaub happened. What happened to Matt Schaub a couple of years ago? I guess almost 10 years ago at this point. Where you just
but Matt Schaub is not Phillip Rivers, or Kirk Cousins for that matter.
No, he isn't. This is a collapse. I don't know how you rebound from this unless you start.
Matt Schaub was good enough. He got to hang out and collect a check for over a decade in the NFL. So
he's still in the NFL.
Is he?
Yeah, he's the backup for the Atlanta Falcons, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, well, good for him. Next up, 29, Daniel Jones. The turnover machine continues, but they did win. And now, who's in first in that division? Is it Philadelphia by a half a game?
I think it's still – is it still Dallas? Let me look.
I'm pretty sure it's still one game. The Eagles have a win and a tie, I think.
No, Dallas has 2 wins. Dallas is with 2 and 4 that are up there.
They do? Who else did they beat? They beat Atlanta.
The Giants. They beat the Giants last week.
All right. So the Giants are a game out.
Number
30, Kyle Allen with the Redskins, who are a game out. 31, Joe Flacco. Really sucks for him to end your career in New York. 32, Case Keenum. He's still in the league. 33, Drew Lock. Still sucks, as I predicted, so.
Yeah, I mean, at this rate, he's not going to be in the league much longer. I mean, I was hoping for some kind of jump from him. And we saw Denver's defense on Sunday. That's kind of what I expected from them throughout the year. And it was the only time the defense has really shown up so far. But I mean, that's where I thought their defense was going to be this year. That's part of the reason I had them ranked so high going into the season.
So Vic Fangio will get fired too, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. He's got to be done. I don't think there's any way he sticks around for another year. We're going to see. We're going to see like 5 or 6 head coaching jobs open up this offseason.
I think there's going to be more than that. I think this. I think Cincinnati, Zach Taylor is going to get fired, and I think Mike Zimmer will be the new coach.
Do you think that is that what you want?
I want that, but also I think it's going to happen because this would work out perfect for the Bengals because Mike Zimmer is a friend of the family's. If he gets fired, he's going to need another job. He'll be comfortable here. He'll come back here. And I just think that the way the Bengals are headed, they're going to win maybe 3 games. Zach Taylor's going to have to be fired because next year you might be able to let fans back into the game. And really, if you keep Zach Taylor here and nothing really changes other than you got Joe Burrow, still may only be allowed to have 6,000 people at the game.
Oh, you'd be lucky to get that if you keep Zach Taylor around for too long. I mean, you're going to be losing fans with him the way it's coaching right now. I mean, really, the Bengals could have 3 wins if you just had a coach.
Oh, they could have 4. I mean, hell, the only game they really got manhandled was Baltimore, wasn't it?
I think so. I'll pull up the numbers right now, but I'm pretty sure, yeah, they have been in most of these games. I mean, they could have easily won the Colts one. They just didn't take the foot off the gas. Yeah, they've been in every game they played this year.
Also, I want to bring up that Aaron Rodgers is now 0-3 in games against Tom Brady, isn't he? Or no, he's 1-2 against Brady.
Yeah, Brady still has the advantage, though.
Is it panic time for the Patriots?
I wouldn't say panic time because you still got Bill Belichick and he's going to keep things level-headed, but really, it's not go time for the Patriots right now. You got to be worried. You got to be worried that Cam Newton's going to be benched at some point this season.
The Pittsburgh Steelers, this is the most balanced team that Big Ben's played on.
Yes, it's the most balanced. I'm going to say yes. I mean, there's some – because early in his career, he had good offensive pieces and a good offensive line. The one issue is that he, as a player himself, was not ready yet. When he was early in his career, he was taking too many errant throws. He was trying to be a gunslinger. That was an issue. He's at a point now where he is so balanced in his play as a quarterback that it's making everything else around him work better.
All right. And the other thing about the Steelers is it surprised me to find out this is only the second time in the team's history that they've started a season out 5-0. The last time was in 1978.
Yeah, I think they started 7-0 that year. They actually won a game in OT, I think, in the first 7 games. And they went on to beat the Dallas Cowboys in the Super Bowl. So hopefully that's a good sign of things to come this year.
Who'd they beat in the divisional playoff that year, Sam?
Oh, we're back to this again. No, I'm not going to pretend I know, Mike. I have no idea.
They beat the Denver Broncos.
Oh.
Who the year before had went to the Super Bowl and had beaten the Pittsburgh Steelers in the divisional playoff in 1977, 24-17 on the way to beating the Raiders and then getting hammered by the Dallas Cowboys.
Oh, good. We got a little bit of a revenge game in there. Great.
Yeah. All right. So, do the Titans have the best offense in football?
Ooh, the best offense in general? They don't have, A.J. Brown's their best receiving threat, so it's not a terrific receiving group, but I'll say yeah, because Derrick Henry to me, even when he's had a bad game, if he gets 22 carries for 88 yards, it's still a win. So they're still going to control the game clock, and Ryan Tannehill is not turning the ball over that much. So I think this is probably the best offense, and also the defense really helps them out. So I would say yeah, this is the best offense in football.
They became the first team in NFL history to have a player with at least 350 passing yards in Ryan Tannehill and a player with at least 200 rushing yards in Derrick Henry in the same game.
I'm telling you, this is a perfect pairing for them. Really, they did a great job getting these contracts worked out this past offseason. If you could let one of these guys go, it would look terrible now because they've been so good together.
So, is Tennessee the best team in the AFC?
If you play them against – this year's I have trouble counting out Patrick Mahomes in any game whatsoever. If you play Tennessee against Kansas City, I might still take Kansas City just because of Patrick Mahomes.
I would take Tennessee because of Derrick Henry.
That's a counterpoint.
I think you can trust Derrick Henry more than you can any quarterback. He's a running back.
Yeah. He's got less chances to make mistakes. My one issue would be, if you look at what Mike Vrabel did when Tennessee played Kansas City in the AFC Championship game, they moved away from the running game because they got scared essentially late in the game and moved away, started throwing the ball more. My one concern would be he would do something similar this year if they play.
Well, my thing is this, though. I think Mike Vrabel's a good coach, and I think when things like that happen to good coaches, they learn from it. And I think Mike Vrabel's a good football coach. Now, I think in Indianapolis, I think they need to fire Frank Reich.
Yeah, I mean, I had a high opinion of Frank Reich going into the year, but really, I mean, the running game hasn't been established whatsoever. They have that great offensive line; they're wasting it. And the Phillip Rivers signing looks horrible right now.
Well, it looks great when they play the Cincinnati Bengals.
Well, yeah, but so does a lot of quarterbacks when that plays out. But really, yeah, Frank Reich at this point, I mean, he's getting late. I mean, how many years he's been there now? They haven't won anything significant. It's been a while. I feel like Frank Reich is really kind of pushing his luck at this point.
He's been in the playoffs. He's an all right coach, but I just don't think – I think this team is better than what they're playing at, if you know what I mean.
You know, they should be better. They should have more wins right now. That's my issue. They should also be – I mean, just – they should look better. They have the pieces. They need to look better, and that's the issue. I don't trust them in competitive games against the Titans or the Chiefs or anyone like that just because what I've seen so far is they're incredibly inconsistent. They can't control the ball. What are you doing with the clock?
All right, Sam, you want to tell everybody where they can find you on the old Twitter?
You can follow me on Twitter at Sam_Teets33. I'm also on Instagram and Facebook, so you can follow me on basically any social media platform.
All right, guys. You can follow me at Grueling Truth. You can hear us in podcast form on iHeartRadio, iTunes, TuneIn, Spreaker, Stitcher, Spotify. Basically, wherever you find sports podcast, you'll find the Grueling Truth. And you can find us live every day at 1 o'clock, sometimes on Facebook when they're not blocking us. You can also find us live on YouTube, Periscope, Twitch. Also, go over to Rockfin. Check us out on Rockfin. It is a medium where you pay $9.99 a month, and you get the thousands of people that are there. The great thing is there is nothing that is censored. There is nothing that is taken down because it's deemed offensive content. So check out Rockfin. There's a lot of wrestling content there, college and pro. I think we're the main football content there. You've got guys like Jason Burmas, a lot of political commentary, which is uncensored, which you can't get on YouTube, which is why YouTube now. You can still find us on YouTube Live, but YouTube gets all the money, which also brings me to the fact that you can go check out the GoFundMe page if you want to help us out there. So make sure you check us out, The Grueling Truth, on GoFundMe. We will be back tomorrow at 1 o'clock. I don't know what we're talking about, but we'll make something up. So until then, for Sam Teets, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening and watching to The Grueling Truth.